Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As the days of Muharram get closer to the day of Ashura itself, we begin to feel that the nights become darker and that the days become sadder. And there is a reason to all of this. The reason is that this is the time where the Ahlul Bayt, the family of the Prophet, and the family of Imam Hussein began to face even more and more hardship as it went on. As you remember, on the 2nd of Muharram was when the family of Imam Hussein arrived in Karbala. And by the 7th of Muharram, Yazid's army, they pushed Imam Hussein back from the river of Furat so that they could not access the river and they could not access any water. This was something that was very hard on the children of Karbala and very hard on the family. And this was something that kept on going until 3 days where Imam Hussein and his family were thirsty and hungry for 3 days. In these times, in the last few nights, we also remember those that were very close to Imam Hussein, the close family and companions that gave a huge loss and a huge grief to Imam Hussein and us as those who love Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And today we'll be remembering two of those warriors, and they are Hazrat Ali Akbar and Hazrat Abbas. But before that, we'll start off with a quick recap of our previous topic. So the first question is, what was the name of Imam Hussein's daughter, who he had a special bond with? And this is the daughter that came to Karbala with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So, what was her name? Her name was Sayyida Sakina or Ruqayya. Okay, and the second question is, how old was Hazrat Ali Akbar when he became Shaheed? So Hazrat Ali Akbar was the youngest martyr in the field of Karbala. How old was Hazrat Ali Akbar? So he was 6 months old. He was 6 months old. That's correct. Now Hazrat Ali Akbar had an elder brother called Hazrat Ali Akbar. And Hazrat Ali Akbar means the greater Ali. Akbar means greater, Asghar means smaller. So although Ali Akbar was the elder brother, he was still a teenager. And I'll talk about a few things that made him very unique and very special to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The first thing was that he was very close in resemblance to the Prophet of Allah. So his face reminded the family and everyone else of the Prophet. In fact, Imam Hussein alayhi salam has been quoted to say that whenever he missed seeing the Prophet, he would look at the face of Ali Akbar. So for Imam Hussein, he not only loved him as his dear son, but also when he saw him, he saw his grandfather, his most beloved person that he ever existed to him, the Prophet of Allah. The other thing that we know about him from his last days, that was he had a very beautiful and loud voice, and he recited the azan of Fajr on the day of Ashura. He was the one who Imam Hussein called to do Ashura. And to this day, after the night of Ashura, when it comes to the Fajr time of Ashura, people remember that particular azan as being the azan Ali Akbar, the azan that Ali Akbar gave, because it's something that we still remember to this day. And lastly, Ali Akbar was a valiant warrior. He was a brave and strong warrior, and he was taught how to fight in battle by Hazrat Abbas. And he was someone that came into the battlefield full of courage and and fearless towards the face of enemy, even though the Imam did not have many and there were many people on Yazid's side. So he was someone who was absolutely fearless. And with Ali Akbar, he was fearless, and it came to the Zohar time of Ashura, where the family of the Prophet were now called upon, and Hazrat Ali Akbar offered to actually go and fight the enemy. And Hazrat Ali Akbar asked his father for permission to actually go and start fighting the enemies in this battle. Imam Hussein, reluctantly, he did give his permission, but he said that he should go visit his mum and aunties because they love him very much. Ali Akbar went, but his aunties wanted to hold on to him because he was such a dear son. He was someone who was very young and handsome, and they wanted to see him married, and all of that dreams were going to end soon. But they reluctantly had to let him go. And Hazrat Ali Akbar, he climbed his horse, he straddled on it, and then he said to his father, Assalamu alaikum, and began to walk towards the battlefield. And as he was riding and trotting, he heard his footsteps behind him, and he turned around and he saw that his father was there, and he said to his father that, why are you still coming? I said farewell to you. And he said, Imam Hussein said, if you had known, if you had a son like mine, then you would have understood, in other words. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it was very difficult to see his best, his beloved son actually leave for battle. Ali Akbar went, he fought valiantly, and he killed many enemies until a point came where someone struck a spear onto his chest, and he fell down, and he said to his father, Ya bata alayka minni salam. He said, oh father, to you is my salam, which means that it's his final farewell. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he rushed towards him, even though the narrations say that he lost his vision, that it was so hard on Imam Hussein that he lost his vision after seeing Ali Akbar fall on the ground. He came to him and he saw that on his chest was a spear, and that was blocking some of his veins. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he remembered Imam Ali, his own father, and he remembered that Imam Ali, his struggle in battle of Khaybar, where he had to pull a door that it took 40 men to pull. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it's been quoted that he said, this is his Khaybar, where pulling the spear out of his own son's chest. And as he pulled the chest, that was the time of the sacrifice of Hazrat Ali Akbar. But that was not all that as Imam Hussein alayhi salam had to face. After all of the sacrifices have been made, or many of the sacrifices, then it came to Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. And Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, and I'll do a brief introduction about him as well. He was someone who, his greatest laqab is Qamr ibn Bani Hashim, is someone who who his father gave. So if you can see this flag over here, this is the dome of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. On the red flag, it says, Ya Qamar ibn Bani Hashim. Qamar ibn Bani Hashim means moon of the Hashemites. And this is a title that Imam Ali, who the father of Hazrat Abbas was, he gave to him. And that title means that he is a shining light in the family of the Hashemites. And as you know, the family of Bani Hashim is not an ordinary family. It is the family of the Ahlul Bayt, the Prophet ﷺ. It's the family of Muslim ibn Aqil. It's the family of very, very great people, who were always honest, always truthful. And Hazrat Abbas ﷺ is the moon of the Hashemites. He is their bright, face. He's also known as Alamdar. Alamdar means the person who bears the flag. In the olden days in the army, they used to have a flag that the commander of the army used to have. And the flag, as long as it was standing, it meant that the army is still there. Hazrat Abbas held the army together as being the Alamdar, the one who bears the flag. And all of the alams that you see, whether it's at the center, whether it's at the masjid or at your homes, they are a visual reminder of Hazrat Abbas's, flag in the day of Ashura. That is what it's all connected to at the end of the day. He's also known as Babul Hawaij because in his time, he was someone who was the door to the desires or the wishes of those around him, his family. His family always felt safe around him because he was someone who was courageous, he was fearless, he was strong, he was brave. He was someone that no one ever dared to attack his family because Hazrat Abbas was someone who was the bravest warrior in Arabia. He reminded everyone of the bravery of Imam Ali alayhi salam. One of his titles is that he is the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He is the son of, and in many ways he resembled Imam Ali in battle and his bravery as well. And he was always someone who was very knowledgeable as well. So not only was he strong, but he was very knowledgeable and wise as well. So what happened with Hazrat Abbas was Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it's been reported that Imam Hussein didn't let Hazrat Abbas fight. So even though he was the commander of the army. But after 3 days of no water, the kids became very thirsty. Hazrat Abbas was very close to Imam Hussein's daughter, Sayyidah Sakina or Sayyidah Ruqayya. Sayyidah Sakina gathered the kids, and the kids came to Hazrat Abbas with having their water bags. And at that time, you didn't have water bottles. Water bags were these things that were made of some kind of skin and like animal skin, like leather, and there were these pouches. So baby Sakina was very thirsty, and Hazrat Abbas then asked the permission of Imam Hussein to bring water for the children. Imam Hussein alayhi salam only gave that permission, and Hazrat Abbas then, he leapt to his horse, and then he said salam to everyone. Hazrat Sakina and the children were sure that someone like Hazrat Abbas, the greatest warrior in all of Arabia, would come back with water to them. And then he left. And then he went very quickly, running through the palms, all the way to the river Furat, past the army. And then he came to the river Furat. And then at that time he was reminded of his thirst. He was also very thirsty, and he might have thought to himself that if he gets a sip of water, that it might give him enough energy to then support the Imam even more. But then he thought of the thirst of Imam Hussein, and he thought of the thirst of everyone around there. So the water that he had in his hands, he put back into the water. He filled the water bag that he had with him, as you can see in the bottom of the picture, the water bag that he had with him, and then he carried it in his right arm, and then he again galloped with his horse back to the camps. And then as he reached and as he was going through the palms, there was someone who was hiding behind there, and he had a spear and then or a sword, and then they cut his right arm. Hazrat Abbas took the water bag and then put it into his left hand, and then he kept going, and then there was another person hiding behind another palm, and then they cut off his left hand. And then Hazrat Abbas, he persisted to the pain. He wanted the water to reach the camps of Karbala, so he put the water bag under his chin, holding it with his chin. And then the enemy started to target that water bag, because they knew that that was the hope of all of Imam Hussein's camp, and then they burst that water bag. And as soon as that water bag burst, the other spears even came to him, and then he fell down the ground. He lost that hope. The water bag had fallen to the ground, and all of the water had spilled out. And then Imam Hussein alayhi salam felt very broken at that point. He said to him that right now is when my back is broken. Now my back is broken, is what Imam Hussein alayhi salam said. Imam Hussein alayhi salam requested that he call him his brother for one last time. And then that's how the Imam Hazrat Abbas completed his sacrifice. He was someone who was so brave, yet someone who was there at the very last moment to give Imam Hussein the support. And that is the story of the two warriors of Hazrat Abbas and Hazrat Ali Akbar. In this whole period, from the young age of Hazrat Abbas until the moment of his Shahada, Hazrat Abbas always served the Imam loyally and always with courage and with bravery. And despite the fact that he wanted to fight, Hazrat Abbas listened to the orders of the Imam. The Imam did not want to go there just for a victory. He wanted to go there to make sure that the mission of Islam, that he is there to revive the mission of Islam. And that was what he accomplished with Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. And in the story of Hazrat Abbas and Hazrat Ali Akbar, the hearts of the believers, the hearts of your parents, and the hearts of the people who love Imam Hussein become very, very warm and very heated. They become full of love. And there's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ that Imam Jafar narrates that surely there exists in the heart of mu'mineen, with respect to the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, a heat that never subsides. And this means that every time we listen to the story of Imam Hussein, and we listen to the story of Hazrat Abbas and Hazrat Ali Akbar, and we listen to that, we remember the sacrifice of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein alayhi salam saw with his own eyes the martyrdom and sacrifice of his son Ali Asghar, his son Ali Akbar, his nephew Hazrat Qasim, his other nephews On and Muhammad, all of it in front of his eyes. 3 days thirsty, all of his family, Sakina and Ali Asghar. After having all of that, the believers, they always have a heat in them, a fire in them, the love for them that never subsides. And you'll see this love everywhere. So next time, for example, when you're going to the center, look carefully at the alam and look carefully how it reminds you of the story of Hazrat Abbas. So in this, you've got an alam there and you've got a hand there, right? And think about what that hand represents. That hand represents, there's two things, yes? One, it represents the hand that fell in the day of Ashura of Hazrat Abbas, and it also represents the Ahlul Kisa as well. That sort of represents. Think about that hand underneath. There seems to be a water-shaped thing. What is that bottle? Water-shaped bottle. That is the mashk of Sakina, right? That is what it represents. So it represents how Hazrat Abbas wanted to get water for Sakina, but he wasn't able to. And through that, Allah gave him the honor of Babul Hawaj, the door to desires. Because in this life, Allah wanted his sacrifice to be made, and the sacrifice of the Ahlul Bayt. And when you're thinking about the rest of the alam, think about how Hazrat Abbas was the flag bearer of the army of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That is what the alam represents. The other thing is, we talked about Hazrat Ali Akbar and we talked about Azan of Ali Akbar. And there's two occasions where when Shias, they listen to an Azan, they start to cry. And one of them is the martyrdom of Imam Ali alayhi salam in Ramazan, because Imam Ali was also martyred in the time of Fajr. And the other is the Azan of Ashura. So when you think about it, when you listen to the Azan on the day of Ashura on the Fajr time, think about the sacrifice of Ali Akbar. So that is what I wanted to leave you with today, to connect the stories of these personalities to the sha'air, the way we associate symbols of their sacrifice. And inshallah with that, I will leave you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.